everybody, and welcome into another edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. I'm Adam Hildebrand, alongside Tiger head football coach David Alexander. And Coach, we'll try to start this edition of this show in the same way that the game started on Friday night. Kick return for a touchdown. Got everybody riled up pretty well right off the bat. But from a coaching perspective, even though that's exciting and you score early, does that change much for you about the rest of the game?
Oh, no, not really. It is. It's a big uplift for the kids. And any special team play in a game is are big momentum shifters. But, the opening kickoff, that's just a big bonus.
And everybody's already excited to play, right? It's the
Sure.
opening kickoff. Everybody's all jacked up. Do you have to kind of reel them back in a little bit and say, hey, we've still got at that? I think that took 11 seconds. So there was almost 4 entire quarters of football still to be.
Yes, of course you do. Because it's easy to say, it's, for a young man, in a football game, it's easy to say, hey, we're the better team. And look at this, it took us 11 seconds to score. We're going to kill these guys. But we obviously know that's not the way it really works. And, you got to keep them focused on what they're supposed to do.
So that was a special team play that certainly worked out really well. There were a couple of other special teams plays that were very close to working out really well. And the reason I bring that up is I think it was Logan Diller, the long snapper, that I saw laying out at the goal line for a couple of punts. What does that say about him and his effort? Because that's a lot to get down the field for a long snapper on a play like that.
It is, man. Thank you for bringing up Logan. What a great young man. It's just all buy-in. Logan is a two-sport guy. He starts for the baseball team at third base. He's he's just a great young man. And the only thing he does is snap for us. We had to beg him to come back out. He was just going to, because he played last year, played some linebacker, played in deep snap, and then obviously his best sport is baseball. And no, Logan, please, if you just come out, we won't make you play linebacker. We won't make you practice. Just show up in deep snap. He loves some of his best friends are Jake Raines and that group. So he loves being around, and he's done a fantastic job for us. So it wasn't a surprise to us coaches, right? The effort that he gave down there on the goal line, because we know what kind of kid he is, and we see it every day. So, just a great young man trying to make a play for his teammates.
He was very close to doing so on both occasions. Having a guy like that at long snapper, because we've talked about special teams quite a bit this year, but there are so many individual little things that can go wrong with a long snap or a hold on a field goal or anything like that.
Right.
So, what kind of confidence do you have? Obviously, you're confident in those guys, but how nice is it to have guys that you can depend on in those snapping and holding positions, because they get overlooked sometimes?
Well, you're kind of speaking to my heart a little bit. I was a deep snapper, right? I snapped in college. I snapped in the NFL for 5 years. So, it's a point of emphasis. Now, having guys, having a guy like Logan Diller that is a specialist at it, and that's what he does during practice when he's there, and that's a comfort, right? Most high school football teams don't have just a snapper. And then we've got Seth Dodd, who's the punter and he's the holder. He's got maybe as good a hands as anybody on the team. Not maybe, all the players think that Seth may have the best hands on the team. And, he held last year. So it's a great combination. Those guys get a lot of work. And we practice field goals 3 days a week, and we punt every day.
You guys obviously got the kick return for a touchdown, but it looked like you had the kick return team set up a little bit differently on Friday night. Were you guys expecting potentially some short kicks and needing to have some hands guys in there?
Well, the game before Enid played at Edmond Santa Fe, and they onside kicked every time.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, why not anticipate the same thing? So we were set up for onside kicks because Enid onside kicked. I think they kicked 5 times against Santa Fe. Right, one of the opening halves, and then they scored 3 or 4 times. Right. So, why not expect that? So, it worked out great for us. We had worked on if they pooch it, what the blocking scheme, how we were going to handle it. But you got to prepare for, what the team's showing on film.
That's our special team segment for today here on Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We'll be back to talk some defense with Coach Alexander in just a moment.
Recently, you've had to put your life on hold, and we're with you in this. At Ascension St. John, we're now open for appointments, and we are fully prepared for your safety and our care. As we open our doors again, our doctors, nurses, and care teams will continue to wear personal protective equipment. We've taken even more steps to clean and stringently disinfect all areas. We will maintain distancing in our waiting rooms and will continue to limit visitors. And we will still screen all staff to protect their health and yours. Our emergency rooms are here 24/7. Please do not delay care. We're still delivering babies and performing surgeries. And we're open for your appointments, from specialists and surgical care to routine care and health screenings. Ask us about virtual visits. Ascension St. John continues to care for you, as we have been for almost a century. Thank you for trusting us.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. I'm Adam Hildebrand, again with head coach David Alexander. His team coming off of the win at Enid over the weekend, and then getting into playoff time this coming week. Coach, let's continue to look back, and let's look at the defense now on Friday.
Sure.
What stood out to you about that side of the ball?
Well, again, it's 2 weeks in a row that we're creating turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Man, creating turnovers is a must going into the playoffs. We went through such a dry spell in the middle of the season and not be able to get extra possessions for the offense. But so when we do that, we're going to be really good if we can continue that into the playoffs. And then also the defensive score. Man, those are even bigger plays than special teams scores. It was great. Garrett Hinesley with a hustle play. Darren Moss got put the pressure on the quarterback, made him turn, hit the ball on his leg and drop it. And he and Lance Young, Darren Moss and Lance Young, made sure the quarterback couldn't get back to the ball. And Garrett Hinesley was the guy, on the spot to score the touchdown.
Yeah, those guys that pin down the ball carrier or bat the ball free, they get overlooked on some of those big plays sometimes, but certainly a big play there by Moss, who, again, was fighting. He was dinged up in that game again and was fighting through a lot to be able to keep playing. So well done on his part. You also, as you just mentioned, you got to the quarterback fairly frequently on Friday night. Why were you able to get so much pressure on Enid in that game?
Well, we had a pretty good beat on what their protection scheme was going to be. And when you have a beat on how they're going to protect, every protection and every scheme has a weak spot. It may not be a flaw, but there's just a weaker area. And we did a good job of attacking it. Seth Dodd's making the calls and getting the defensive front lined up and the blitz called correctly. So, when you do that, you have a good game plan, things work out for you.
And it's not going to be news to anybody that even if you don't get to the quarterback, if you're pressuring the quarterback, that makes it harder for him to throw the football. That's not breaking news to anybody, but kind of walk us through that a little bit. Why does the quarterback in that situation, why is it so much harder for him to deliver the ball accurately, and it perhaps gives your defensive backs a chance to get to it?
Well, every throw is on a time, right? There's a clock going on, right? Whatever the route is, it's a 3-yard, 3-step slant, right? The ball coming out quick or something deeper, right? So everything is on a time, right? The quarterback receiver timing. And if you throw that timing off, right, you speed up the quarterback's clock, right? Or you slow down the receiver's clock. Things are going to work out really well for the defense. And what we were able to do, we were able to speed that clock up with the quarterback. And so his timing with his receivers was off, and good things happened, right? He either held the ball and got sacked, or he threw the ball early and we got a couple interceptions or some incompletions. So you try to do both sometimes during the game, right? Slow the receiver down or speed the quarterback up. And, if you get to the quarterback and if you hit him early in the game, also too, right now he's thinking about it. Quarterbacks, all quarterbacks, ours included, right? It's just not something they're comfortable with happening to them.
Going back really to the Edmond Santa Fe games, the defensive backs have had some really good size wide receivers to match up with.
Sure.
And that was Tyke Andrews for Enid the other night. How have the corners been able to make up for some of those size disadvantages and continue to defend really, really well?
Well, both our guys outside are fantastic football players, change direction really well. Both have great open field speed and very good ball skills. But, when you're playing against those big guys, they are sometimes they're going to make a catch over the top of you. And, you just have to realize, hey, I was in good coverage. The one Corey Williams couldn't have been in any better spot, right? He was cutting off the receiver, just a great play. You just build those corners' confidence back up, say, hey, man, you're right there. You're going to make the next one. You're going to make the next play. And they did, right? Jalen Johnson, the interception he made at the end of the game was as good a play as we've had this year by a defensive back. Far corner, sinking the middle of the field, reads the quarterback's eyes and breaks underneath the post down there and makes a great play. Those are fantastic. Those just kids that's making plays. And being small doesn't, in stature doesn't mean you're going to play small.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a look back at the defense on Friday night at Enid. We'll cover the offense when we return here in just a moment to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
For families who like to build their wealth while staying liquid, we have flexible rate CDs to keep your funds working hard, even when you're not. First National Bank of Broken Arrow. The right balance.
Finding your happy place is something special and different for everyone. You probably already know where to find yours, and TTCU Federal Credit Union can help you get there. Talk with our team. We'll give you the tools to build the financial future you want. So wherever your happy place finds you, TTCU will meet you there. TTCU Federal Credit Union. Life is better in balance.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. Adam Hildebrand again with Tiger head coach David Alexander. And coach, we've hit special teams and defense. Let's talk some offense right now. And you really can't start in that game anywhere other than RJ Spears-Jennings, who literally started the game with the kick return for a touchdown. But receiving wise, in particular, he was just a monster. What was so special about him in that game on Friday?
Well, we think, right, and I'm pretty confident in this, that RJ he's realizing that he's bigger and stronger than everybody that's going to be covering him this year. He broke tackles, he stiff-armed people, he outran people, just had a fantastic game all the way around. He made a couple really big, great catches in traffic. We got no yardage. That one on our sidelines where he broke all those tackles and scored. I'm standing right there because I know what the play is. I'm standing right there where he's going to catch it. There's only a minute, something left in the half, and I'm screaming at him to get out of bounds, get out of bounds, get out of bounds, get out of bounds, and he just keeps stiff-arming guys and goes score. And say, well, hey, great job.
Yeah.
He's always from the very beginning of the season, right? He's made some really, really good catches because he's got big, strong hands. But now the added dimension of breaking tackles, making guys miss. That's pretty special to see.
With those guys, especially guys that have size, that are underclassmen, it always takes a little while, it seems like, to grow into that size. Like before it kind of clicks and they realize that there's no way to tell when that's going to happen.
Right.
But what are some signs when you finally start to see that? You're like, oh, he's starting to figure this out a little bit.
Well, it's been just here very recently, and it's something you talk about with those guys. It's using his offhand, right, to stiff arm people, right? You catch those little 5 yards out or a little hitch or a curl, right? You know where your defensive back is because you're just running a route on him. He's on your back, he's on your hip, right? Put the ball on the outside arm, right? And even if you're just going out of bounds, don't take the hit, stiff arm and go out of bounds. But now he's using that stiff arm as a weapon. And he threw that one poor kid from Enid down, and then another guy jumped on his back and slid off. Just a really big performance by Mr. Jennings.
As we head into the playoffs this week, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges that your offense poses to other defenses?
Well, we've got two guys that carry the ball that are going to get yards. They get the ball, they're going to get yards. They're just too talented not to. And we put three receivers out on the football field that are threats. We've shown that we're going to throw it to any of them. Right? RJ, we talked about what he's done here lately, but Keon has caught some big. Keon Barnett's got some big balls down the middle, right? Which keeps the safeties from just going and immediately double teaming RJ. And then JL Talley is such a height mismatch. He's 6'5". And not only is he 6'5", but he can jump. Right, he's a basketball player, a great basketball player for the Tiger basketball team. And so if we can make a defense defend from sideline to sideline and from the line of scrimmage to 35 yards deep, it really creates some holes.
And we saw JL go up and get a couple in traffic where he high-pointed the ball the other night, a couple of big first down catches for him in that game. The offensive line has had to shuffle around quite a bit due to some injuries.
Right.
Do you feel like, though, because of that, you guys have started to build some depth up front?
Well, we've obviously built some depth. It was out of necessity, right? Injuries, and we had a couple contact tracing guys. It's been great to see some of these couple of the young kids grow up. We had a sophomore in there against Enid playing quite a bit, and he had a little bit of a rough night. But it's exactly what you'd expect from a 15-year-old playing against a senior defensive lineman. But he's a big, strong kid, and that experience against Enid, if he has to play in the playoffs, will just benefit him.
Stieber and Wilhite, the tight ends, go in motion on a pretty frequent basis,
Sure.
Setting up different formations and whatnot. What do they have to go through mentally in terms of starting where they do and then knowing that they're going in motion and still having to fit in with the blocking schemes and things like that?
Yeah, boy, it's some mental gymnastics. We're, even though we're a huddle team, we're very complicated in what we try to do. And, each week's a different game plan. If we're going to run behind Stieber or run behind Wilhite, or we're going to, show one formation, do something else. So, those guys are told in the huddle where to line up and what their motion is, and then the play. So they've got a lot of things on their plate. Griffin played quite a bit last year, and so he's got a pretty good handle on it. And Josh Wilhite, sophomore, he's tough kid, smart kid, going to be a great player. It took him a lot of reps. It took him till the midseason for him to really understand what we're trying to get done, and he's really starting to play very, very well.
We've made it through 9 games now, headed into the postseason. How proud are you of the way this team has handled things off of the field in terms of COVID protocols and things like that? Because all it takes is 1 or 2 guys, and then you got a situation on your hands.
Well, it's been quite an ordeal, and so to say I'm proud of them is an understatement. We just decided, I decided, and the staff decided from the very beginning, when we got the kids back in August, that, the best thing for us to do was just to talk about it every day, try to make it normal, and not complain about it. This is what it has to be. And just remind them of this is our new normal. I can't apologize for it. Every team has to go through it. And so I think just being open and upfront with the kids about protocols, right? Staying away from people you don't know, right? Don't go to the mall, right? If you've got a group of friends, hey, and you guys are together all the time, right? Don't just stay with that group of friends. Let's don't go to, any parties. Let's don't go to the mall. Let's don't go someplace packed to eat. Go to your same places and do your same routines. Live your life, but we're going to have to temper everything down a little bit.
Now, football-wise, heading into playoff time, what do we expect from PC on Friday?
Well, you're going to see a really well-coached football team. This is, you're going to get the same speech from me about Putnam City as you did about Enid last week in the show. A new head coach who has done such a fantastic job getting those kids at Putnam City to have an offensive scheme that works for them, have a defensive scheme that works for them. Much improvement, and even as this season's went on, they started off the season kind of rough, and man, they have played better and better and better. And that's a testament to Coach Whitson up there at Putnam City. You'll see they're a little bit old school defensively, right? 4-3, right? And not many teams run that much anymore. But it's easy to line up for them, right? And if you can just get lined up correctly on defense, then you're going to be successful. And then offensively, you're going to see a little bit of they're not going to run the ball straight ahead very much, right? It's going to be all perimeter, some bubble screens and jet sweeps and quarterback sweeps. So it'll be all outside stuff for their offense, but they found what works for them, and they're putting points on the board.
That's what we'll be looking for on Friday as Broken Arrow gets into playoff time against Putnam City. That's Tiger head coach David Alexander. I'm Adam Hildebrand. Thanks for tuning into this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.